getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows. Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors. This is round number 7 of the season, coming to you today from Sebring. My name is Ron Maunz. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Charles Boshell. Guido Marzucchi is our producer for today's broadcast. Well, Charles, we head to an old-school American road course and one of my favorite tracks in the world. I absolutely adore Sebring. Granted, it feels like at certain points in time that my head will be dislodged from the top of my spine driving around here, even in the sim. It gives it character. You got to respect the bumps around here. If you respect them back, the track will respect you. If not, you're probably going to end up in the wall. So I think as much as we have far more runoff area at this track than we did at Long Beach a little bit earlier on today, I still feel like this is a track that can bite and can bite hard.
Yeah, absolutely, Ron. This is a very, very tricky course because of those bumps, especially in a car that really wants, that really just relies on mechanical grip to get through corners. When you start skipping across those things, you lose that grip, strangely enough. I know that's, that's hard to believe, but that's what happens when you start bouncing through here. So you have to be very careful. It's almost a controlled slide as you're working your way through some of these corners, especially through Sunset. So be watching out for that today, but it should make for a really great race. Obviously, big track, lots of drafting involved, and these cars love drafting, and some of the drivers do as well. So looking forward to a really good race.
It's certainly going to be a draft fest here today. It's going to be a fun one, though. I am certainly looking forward to another fantastic race from this season. And as we are rather early on in this qualifying session, let's, in a couple of moments, we'll do an onboard lap with the sponsor of today's broadcast, one of our esteemed colleagues here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, Kane Lasky in the 09 car. He has his way down into the final turn, Sunset Bend. This corner I can never get right, no matter what kind of car it is. This track overall still absolutely one that I adore. And let's ride on board with Lasky as he gets his way down the start-finish straight. Across the line he's gonna go, dealing with the bumps down into turn number 1. One of the most storied turns in all of American sports car racing. Gotta lick the stamp and send it off through here. Try and manage the bumps and manage a little bit of oversteer. Changing surfaces now onto the smooth stuff. This is a small little run up into turn number 3. That turn 2, though, gotta make that braking zone extraordinarily difficult. Turn 3, the exit, right into turn number 4, and now through turn number 5, you're back on the bumpy stuff with that patchy concrete on the inside. Now out of there through Big Bend of turn number 6, under the bridge. One of the longest flat-out blasts around this track, going to create a bit of a slipstream fest as we head our way down into the hairpin of turn number 7. One of the later alterations made to this track back in the late 90s, I believe. That runoff area used to be the actual layout of this course. They add in the small little dogleg detour on the inside, and that makes up the hairpin of turn number 7. Now through Fangio of turn number 8 and 9. You'd usually think, oh, Fangio, he never got the opportunity to race around here, and well, Juan Manuel Fangio didn't. I believe Juan Manuel Fangio, the second or the third, got an opportunity to race around here. This track played host to the very first Formula One Grand Prix in the United States, outside the ones at Indianapolis for the Indy 500. That was turn number 10 and 11. Cunningham and Collier Bend. Turn number 11 of Collier. Probably one of the toughest turns around this racetrack, but this is the toughest. Lucky number turn 13, Tower Bend. Super tough to try and manage it through there. You got a little bit of banking to help you out, but that inside curb will send you off the track lickety split. Gonna definitely see some drivers go off the track through there. That's turn 14 of Bishop into turn number 15. Another good spot to potentially get some moves done, but at the same time, those killer curbs, those 3D curbs that we've got on this track as well, can really bounce you off badly. That's Le Mans, not the track, the corner. Turn number 16, heading your way onto the Ullman straightaway. Another long flat out blast right towards the end of the lap. Going up the gear is going to be a huge slipstream opportunity, especially come time for the final lap in this race that lies ahead. And about to head our way off into Sunset Bend of turn number 17, going from the smooth stuff onto the bumpy stuff. Look at that car undulating up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Looks like a pogo stick with an engine attached to it as he heads his way through turn number 14, trying to keep the momentum rolling, and he heads on to that start-finish straightaway. That right there is Kane Lasky, the sponsor of today's broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, and that right there is a lap of Sebring, a track that is super tricky to try and nail down right there in southern to central Florida, only a 3-hour drive away from the Keys.
Yeah, it's amazing. I was down there in 2023 for the Super Sebring weekend. Absolutely fantastic location. Even in March, still hot. So, but a great place, and you're really close to everything. It's, you're a couple hours drive from Miami, Orlando, and Tampa. So it's pretty centrally located in South Central Florida. And once again, fantastic venue. Lots of places to get a good view. And it was a good lap by Kane. So dropped down a little bit as a couple other cars have moved up, but sitting there nicely in P5. He'll be fast when it comes to the race. Does a really good job. So we're on board here. This is Maurizio Naselli, our current pole sitter. Always fast everywhere we go. Pinero in second, Soto in third. So looks like there might be a really good race at the front as we'll go to the keys to the race today. Lots of fast, bumpy corners on this track, as Ron mentioned earlier. Obviously, turn 1, and then that Sunset Bend as well. Big drafts down the front and back straights. You may come out of Le Mans a second back, and by the time you're coming into turn 1, maybe in a dead heat with the car in front. And then obviously there's like 3 or 4 really good braking opportunities to make some passes. Thinking primarily turns 3, turn 7, turn 9. Really good opportunities to just lay on the brakes and make moves down to pick up a couple positions. And those are the keys for me for today's race. And we'll look forward to it. It's going to be fun as we're still on board here with Felix Mois.
And as we follow Felix getting towards the end of this qualifying session, we'll take a quick gander at the championship point standings heading into the second half of this season. We'll start off as usual with Spec 1, where Marco Pinero has jumped out into a lead. It's himself and Felix Mois that have really traded blows all throughout this season. They've taken a lion's share of the victories, 3 for Pinero, including the win last time at Laguna Seca, and then 2 for Samoa. Kane Lasky slotted in third. He hasn't gone to victory lane yet, but he has been very consistent throughout this season here in the SRS. Eric Luke got the season kicked off with a win at Interlagos, but ever since then we haven't really seen him be able to shift up into another gear and get up to the likes of Pinero and Samoas when it comes to the results right there at the very end. Jason Green slotted in P5, Josh Justice, Scott Russell, Flavio Angelo round out your top 8. We'll take a look at Spec 2, where despite the fact that in the first 6 races we have had 6 different winners, one driver that has certainly stood out is a 525 of Dirk Braun. He has 1 win this season, that coming a couple of weeks ago at Jerez. But when it comes to qualifying here, Charles, he's grabbed half of the pole positions, the other half going to P2, Mr. Joshua Wilkie. 290 points is what Wilkie has compared to Braun's 338. Matt Thompson, Leonard Geese, and Peterson Rocha round out your top 5. And a very competitive and up and down Spec 2 category. Now looking at Masters, where as much as Antonio Reese has still been the driver up at the front, it hasn't been the story of dominance like it has been over on the Formula Ford side of things. He holds on to 4 wins up to this point in the championship and a 30-point lead in the driver championship heading into the 7th round of the season. Jeff Fritcher in P2, Tom Gradwell in 3rd, Adam Bradshaw in 4th, Brad Cathcart, Jim Brewster, Jörg Monty, Kurt Nunez, and Charlie Vaccaro round out your 9 cars currently classified in the Masters category. Reese looking to shift into another gear here at Sebring as we're getting into the end of this qualifying session now, Charles. Less than 2 minutes to go. Nizelli still up at the front overall. Reese, your top qualifier at the moment in Masters, slotted in 6th, and Dirk Braun right behind the top of the Spec 2 competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. As Dirk had another good qualifying run, he's got a nice gap of about half second over Josh Wilkie in 2nd. You see Reese and Fritcher there separated by 6/10 as well. So all the major players are up at the front in pretty relatively close ties to each other. I was curious. It's really strange. Normally we would see several more cars within that 1 second bubble to the pole, but only 9 today so far. So we might have a couple more that can sneak in there, but that's a pretty low number. Normally we're in the double digits for cars within 1 second of the pole time. But we've got 20 cars within 2 seconds. So obviously that draft, as you get the cars bunched together, will extend, and so that might make you make a top 20 car into a top 10 car if you just play your cards right. And there's Kane Lasky taking the pole, 221.431 over Samoas, who jumped to P2, and Nicelli is now down to 3rd by 1/10.5.
Yeah, Lasky sang at a good time right at the end, just below a 1/10 of a second between himself and Felix Mois. I was just talking about the other challenges of this track and the other possibility of drivers just maintaining their own business and minding their own business, ending up at the front. I think Kane Lasky, this would be a very good way for him to get his first win of this season. Been a rather compelling one up to this point here in Season 3 of 2025. There's also some very good races to look forward to in the weeks ahead. Next time out, we're going to be running at Oran Park on the moto layout, which is rather similar to the regular layout, just with a small little lump added in. Magny Core for the Grand Prix layout, going to be the host for round number 9, Road America for week 10. Long Beach, like we were for the Formula Fords a little bit earlier on, going to play the host to round number 11, and Navarro on the medium configuration going to play host to the final round of this championship here for Season 3 of 2025. And of course, you'll be able to tune into all of the action week in and week out here on Slow Motion Broadcasting and for this week. The sponsor is Kane Lasky and VR Speed Lab. We'd like to thank Kane for sponsoring this week's race, and what a time for him to sponsor it as well. You know, I was talking about how this would be a good time for him to grab his first win. Looks like he's going to potentially grab his first pole position here, and with not terribly long left to go before everybody has had their turn in qualifying, looking all right for him. I'm not really seeing anybody up towards the front that can really challenge him. Jason Green set a good first sector, but throughout the mid portion of the track hasn't really set some very good lap times. So I think Kane Lasky looking pretty all right to grab his first pole here in season 3.
Yeah, he's in a good position. Obviously, we're on our last laps for some of these drivers as we're see Jason Green working his way around the final corner. Very long sunset bend, and gets that run going back down the front straight to see if he can improve his P9 position here at the very last second. And let's see if he manages to do that. 2:22.3. So no, that's not going to move him up. And I think that was actually his or very close to his best time, but just not enough to move up the ladder. So unfortunate for Jason. So be in the top 10. And once again, with the draft being kind of dominant here for over half the lap, then it's going to keep these cars pretty close together for the first half of this session, this race session. When we get into pit stops, that might be the deciding factor today, as we see Josh Justice finish his lap in P23. Not a great run for Josh. Really expected him to be higher than that, as now we're looking at here Leonard Geese.
Yeah, Leonard Geese trying to put on a honker of a lap, but that's not going to help out his case at all. Running off into the dirt as he heads his way out of turn number 16. Having a bit of a wiggle on as he heads his way down the backstretch. Clearly, that's going to invalidate his lap time, so won't have to worry about him jumping any farther up the grid than he already is right now. I was worried that he was going to go straight on, heading down into Sunset Bend and try and take out our camera, in which we'd probably bill the driver of the 527 car for damages. But Dirk Braun looking like he's going to grab the Spec 2 pole. This will be the 4th time that Dirk Braun starts from the pole position in that category. He's been very nice to follow up to this point here in the championship, and has got to look to keep the momentum rolling and potentially grow that gap in the championship as we head off into week number 7. Here's Jason Grider heading his way around the final turn right now. The Spec 2 man behind the wheel of the 552 machine, heading his way across the line about now. Will it be an improvement on that P33 starting spot? Comes across the line, and I don't believe it will be. No, so Jason Grider will remain in 33rd.
I think we've pretty much reached the end of qualifying. As I say that, the tower's gone, and we'll switch over to the race session now. So we're ready to go racing.
Yep, everybody has been abducted, and we're about to switch over to that race session here in a couple of moments' time. And there's that pace car phasing into view, so we can take a look at the starting grid right about now. We do have a very large starting grid, but thankfully we've got a full pace lap, and based off the fact that the pole time was in the 2.5-minute range, I think we probably have about 17 hours before we actually get this race up and rolling, so we can take our time and move slow for this. It's going to be Felix Samoa's starting this race from the pole position, the driver of the number 31 car, looking to try and challenge for that championship. And that's the best start that he could have gone off to. Kane Lasky going to join Samoa's on that front row. It's going to be Maurizio Nazelli starting this race in 3rd. Alongside him will be Marco Pinero in 4th. Josh Soto will start this race in P5 alongside Trent Kramer in 6th. Antonio Reese will grab the Masters pole position, starting this race in 7th, with Dirk Braun completing that 4th row, starting at the front of the Spec 2 category, P8 overall here at the start of this race. Jason Green will start in 9th, with Joachim Osbecker running at your top 10.
Yeah, so Josh Wilkie will start in P11. Outside of row 6 will be Jeff Fritcher starting in 12th. Kurt Nunez starts in 13th. Leonard Geese will start in P14. Matt Thompson starting in 15th. Dan Wood starting in 16th. Alexander Gorson starting in 17th, a new name that I'm not familiar with. We'll keep an eye on him today. Philip Berry starts at 18th. York Monty will start in 19th, and Tom Gradwell rounds out your top 20.
And then looking outside the top 20, we have the Brazilian Peterson Rocha starting this race in 21st. Kevin Adrian alongside in P22 will be Joshua Justice, a real-life Spec Racer Ford driver starting this race in 23rd. Alongside him will be Andrew Love, the winner in the Spec 2 category all throughout this weekend, albeit that was at Long Beach. This is at Sebring, may be a different task ahead. Adam Bradshaw will start this race in P25. Paul Jackson alongside in 26th. Sean McStay will be staying in this field inside of the top 30, starting this race in 27th. Ian Gibson in 28th. Scott Russell in 29th, with Brad Cathcart rounding out your top 30.
Yeah, Michele Valini starting in 31st. Jeff Jacobson starts in P32. Jason Grider, JG1, starting in 33rd. Flavio Andolo starting in 34th. Andrea Favini starting in 35th. Hayden Bramley starting in P36. And Artur Loureiro starting in 37th. The final ones, Andolo, Favini, Bramley, Loureiro, did not set a qualifying time. So we'll see if they make it. I do see Favini and Andolo on the grid. I do not see Bramley or Loureiro out there as of yet.
So it looks like that will be your starting grid for this race. Round number 7 of the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors. We've got a little bit of time before we get this race up and rolling, as the field is now on their formation lap, trying to get the tires warmed up down the run into turn number 7. So I want to move on and talk about the qualifying talking points. We mentioned Felix Samoas. We brought on board with him starting this race from the pole position. This is only the second time that Felix has grabbed the pole position thus far this season in the Spec 1 category. So this man, Flavio Andolo, in the 34th starting spot, actually grabbed the pole in the opening race of the season at Interlagos. Since then, the likes of Jason Green and Marco Pinero have visited the winner's circle when it comes to qualifying, but Felix has done that now 2 of the past 3 weeks, grabbed the pole at Jerez and gets it done here at Sebring. Let's see how things will work out here today. Spec 2, yet again, Dirk Braun starting this race from the pole position. It'll be his 3rd pole in a row after starting there at Jerez and Laguna Seca, of course, here at Sebring. And Antonio Rees starting this race from the pole position. Back-to-back weeks that the Masters pole sitter has started this race from P7. So looks like we've got the usual pole sitters in all of our classes starting up at the front, but this is no usual track, this, Charles.
It's really not. It is one that's going to be a really is open enough that you can that you have some escapability for instance, but it is a very, very stern test of a car and the driver. Excuse me as I choke on my lung. But yeah, it's a tough test. Obviously, we talk about these cars being heavy mechanical grip cars, and this track not really known for having great mechanical grip. So it's going to put a lot of pressure on these drivers to try and do their best to maximize their pace and yet keep the car safe and headed in the proper direction. Wouldn't surprise me any of the 5 drivers we've got in the top 5 have the speed and are capable of winning a race. So it's going to be a fun race at the front, and hopefully we'll have some cars sneak up through the back, and we'll see some nice driving from the back as well. So plenty of room to take the cars out, to 3-4 wide going into some corners. But you're going to have to get it cleared up pretty quickly. Otherwise, you're going to end up losing time to the cars in front. That'll be another key to this.
Yeah, this track is one where you can really start to dice it up at the front, but another one where you can make up some moves. So look for the hard chargers in this race. I have a feeling that the most amount of spots gained in this race may be solidly inside double digits. But getting this race up and rolling, Kane Lasky gonna gun it right away. I'm not really sure how iRacing is gonna look at that, but the green flag is out. The drivers are on their way down to turn number 1. Lasky getting off to a flyer from P2. I think he may pick up a penalty for that, as Felix Samoa is going to run in an uncontested P2. He has his way through turn number 1, hearing that Kane Lasky has picked up a black flag as a result of that jump start. Looking a little bit farther behind, side by side, 3-wide action down into turn number 3. Look at Jason Green trying to get a move done on Dirk Braun. Josh Wilkie right there in suit, side by side, 3-wide. They had their way off through the opening series of corners, but it's Lasky holding on to the lead as it stands right now, but confirming right now, looking at my end, a black flag in the air for that 09 car of Kane Lasky. That's going to be a big setback early on.
Yeah, it really is, and I'm sure there's some miscommunication. Kane thought that there was maybe maybe a start by Samoas that he just took off, or either way, obviously cannot pass before the start-finish line. At the green flag, the pole sitter controls the start after the safety car goes off. So Kane with a boo-boo, and he's going to get slapped for that, as he will have to make a drive-through. I think that's the penalty for a jump start.
I believe that is the penalty, and that is going to be a huge penalty here at Sebring, as that is huge damage, as we see a racer very slow heading all through the opening series of corners. I believe that was Michele Vigolini. Yes, it was in the 319. He sewed back to pit lane. Unfortunate moment, heading all through the opening set of turns. That's a driver running wide a little bit farther there in the back. A shot, as that's a spinner coming out of the turn. I think that was Jörg Monti having to wrestle that car back into a straight line coming out of turn number 13. They had their way down into 14 and 15. Looking like we still got some side-by-side battles going on throughout this field. Just about everybody, though, has decided to cool it off, at least for now. I think the battle up at the front, though, may be the one to keep tabs on. So as we see them head their way down the backstretch for the first time, that's a running wide moment for Leonard Gies. Gain Lasky going to be a sitting duck and not getting any sort of draft assistance, and definitely compounded by the fact he has to come in to serve that penalty in the next few laps.
Yeah, Samoas has got to be careful. He's going to get a good run, but Lasky's going to want to turn down and head down to the pit lane. So hopefully there won't be any contact. I think he's going to go around one more lap, but he's going to have to come in within 3, or he's going to be disqualified from the race, which is not what you want to do when you're sponsoring the race. You don't want to have to do that. As we see another car with some missing, that's Leonard Gies with a missing front end. So he's going to come down and do his pit stop. Luckily, he was on that final corner. So it's a quick dash into the pits, get his fast repair, back out on the track. He'll have to stop again, obviously, for fuel.
Yeah, it's a very unfortunate moment for Gies, along with Michele Vigolini, the both with rather major damage in the early stages of this race. Around a track like this, where it is rather warm here at Sebring in Sim, the air conditioning mod not going to help you out at all as we take a look at those track temperatures. 87 degrees Fahrenheit for the ambient, which is quite warm, and then 123 degrees Fahrenheit for that track temperature. But the thing is, it is southern Florida in the heart of summer. It is August the 3rd, both in real life and in the sim. So the relative humidity actually rather low, I will say. 55%, which is basically bone dry compared to most of Florida during the summer.
Yeah, absolutely right. But yeah, that 123, I think in Celsius, is around 50 to 52, somewhere in that neighborhood. So obviously very hot track temp. It's going to make these cars slide just a little bit more. Obviously, as we talked about, mechanical grip being the main cornering factor here. That's not going to help these cars at all. So they're going to be a little bit sketchier through the corners as we're working our way around. And we'll be looking to see if Lasky's going to make that run to the pits this time by.
And you were exactly right there, Charles. 50 degrees Celsius, actually 50.5 degrees Celsius at 123 Fahrenheit for the track temperature. Currently, though, 323 degrees Kelvin, just in case Neil deGrasse Tyson is tuning into this broadcast here today. But Kane Lasky has to come in to serve that black flag. He's still the Pied Piper at the front of this field, but he will not be for much longer. Felix Samoas and Marco Pinero there to pounds. I think the only reason why they haven't is because of the fact that Kane Lasky has to serve that black flag. Just all spin there in the back, a shot for Jeff Jacobson, as here comes Lasky to serve that black flag down pit lane. He's going to go, hoping not to speed. Big kick in the shins for the driver that started this race in P2, got off to that jump, and will have to jump back to pit lane to serve that drive through. Heartbreaking in the early stages.
Yeah, it really is. It's a shame, but that's part of the rules, and you have to abide by those. And he did not, so obviously gonna serve his take his punishment. It's gonna let Samoas take the lead. Obviously, Pinero, Kramer, Naselli, Soto right behind him. So still no easy task to be up in the front when you got some fast racers like that behind you.
So that's going to be a very tough task for Lasky to try and bounce back from all of that. Exits out of the pits in P31 in that 09 car. A very tough moment for sure. Here's Josh Justice battling with Matt Thompson, your winner in the Spec 2 category from the last round of the championship at Laguna Seca, heading down into turn number 7. Will it be a move from Justice? It will be a move on Justice. Two drivers that we saw a lot in the Ray Esports Club Racing League, putting in some good performance right now, as there is a move from Kevin Adrian, Daniel Wood, and Jörg Monty starting to battle along with Petrus and Rocha and Andre Favini. Favini, we've seen him over this season really decide to take it in his own hands to try and be the hard charger, and he's currently doing that right now, up 13 spots from where he started in this race, getting a bit of a bump draft and assistance there from Adam Bradshaw down into turn number 10 of Cunningham. Through goes Favini on Petrus and Rocha, and now we can make that 14 spots gain for the driver of the 27.
Yeah, he's had a great run up through the field so far, and looks like he's in a good spot. He's got some cars he can draft off of, but I think, we talked about maybe Justice not having the best qualifying. He might have just run a qualifying time without any draft, and his true pace is now showing as he's moving up through the field, up 7 positions already, so having a nice start to this race as we head back up to the front of the field.
And heading back to the front, looking at this train of cars that are running here. It's led by Felix Samoas, Marco Panero slotted in P2, Trent Kramer occupying the final podium spot in third. So we take a look at a replay to see the drama that happened in the early stages for Michele Viglini heading off through the hairpin. We'll note there's been a moment again for Viglini heading off through turn number 3 and 4, spun back around and hits the wall, but not a good race for the driver of the 319 for sure.
No, he's not having a great day, but I just always appreciate when Michele's out here. He doesn't have that. As a matter of fact, I think he's got the lowest I rating of any driver on the service, but he's here almost every week racing as we get this battle here with Geese working to the outside. Oh, that's into the barrier. That was the accident he had earlier. I think he was moving to the outside of Nunez and just ran out of grip out there, and that's what happens. It's basically just a straight line into that tire barrier, and that's going to be very difficult to. He's going to have a tough recovery from P34.
Yeah, very tough moment for the both of those racers. Got to see that replay there involving Viglino's contact with himself and Jeff Jacobson down into turn number 7. Very unfortunate series of events for the both of them, and Viglini is still going to drop back as a result of that moment that happened in live time, heading off through 3 and 4, losing the front end yet again. I believe we're actually going to take a look at the replay to see that moment for Michele Viglini, and the no good, not very good race, but hey, it's Sebring. It's a very challenging track to be sure, and the curbs around here are surprisingly deadly.
Yeah, they really are. We didn't talk about them very much, but there's a few out there that will absolutely catch you out. I'm thinking about the exit curb coming out of Tower, particularly. The curb there in 3 has a tendency to kick you across the track, and if you're around any other car, that's very, very difficult as well. So there's a few curbs out there that just seem to catch people out every time we're at a race here. Now we're taking a look back here at Phil Berry running in P12. Had the newcomer Gorson all over him there as they were battling for position.
And also saw a swapperoo between Daniel Wood and Jörg Monty. Monty having a moment as he headed his way out of turn number 13. Not the first time we've seen that Popeyes car have a snap heading off through there, and will not be the last. I don't know why I randomly developed a British accent trying to say the word snap, but it's a snap there for Monty coming out of turn 13, going to drop down another spot, but we jump back to the battle at the front and see Trent Kramer maybe deciding to get a little bit close. We have got a star-studded top 6 here in this race. You've got Samoas, current championship points leader. Marco Panero running very good in the championship as well. Trent Kramer in P3, member of Weekend Warriors and Ray Esports royalty. Frankly, he's been around the block in these races before. Josh Soto as well, a very talented racer. One of the top racers, I believe, here in the Weekend Warriors. Doesn't show up too often, but he is a very talented racer here on iRacing and in real life as well. And Maritza Nazelli, your reigning Spec 1 champion as well, rounding out your top 5 as it stands currently. So we've got a whole lot of talent at the front of this field and a whole lot of cars at the front of the field, just period.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to extend it out to add Dirk Braun and Jason Green to make that an 8-car train up front. And they've already started pulling away from Wilkie, who's up to P9. So Wilkie's still having a good run, but it's him and Osbeck together, and those 2 cars will not be able to keep up with those 8 very, very fast cars in front. As we're seeing that battle starting to heat up a little bit between Samoas and Panero, who've had their issues on track, it must be said, but they race hard, and I think every time I've talked with Felix, it's been pretty much they've squashed any issues they might have had during the race, and they come back and they race hard again next week. So I expect fireworks before this is over with.
Yeah, we may see some fireworks here at Sebring, some drivers potentially getting a little bit racy, a bit more aggressive. I think I was about to see a move there in the back, a shot from Joachim Osbeck on Josh Wilkie. That'll be a battle for the final 2 spots inside the top 10. We're really starting to see these racers begin to squabble up and start to dice and scrape and claw for every single position that they can. I nearly saw a move from Soto into turn number 14. I think there may have been a moment for Dirk Braun heading his way out of turn number 16 onto the back straightaway. Braun holding on to P6 for now, keyword being for now.
Yeah, for now, he's still within that 1 second, so he should be able to use the draft to get back up to this group and tighten this pack back up. So we'll just kind of keep an eye on it, though. But it is the biggest gap of this pack between Naselli and Braun, but it's already starting to close down. He's already picked up about 2/10.
And it can be a game of tense here in this race. Just lose a little bit of time, and that can snowball from there. You can start to drop down like an anvil. That may be a move potentially as we see these racers head their way onto the start finish straightaway. I think Tom Gradwell did not have a good exit out of turn number 17, the Sunset Bend, a couple of moments ago at all, as he's now falling into the crutches of some of the racers behind. Look at Jörg Monty trying to make something work on Josh Justice down into turn number 1. Not able to get that move done side by side still with Gradwell and Kevin Adrian. Looks like Adrian will win out in that battle to remain in the final spot inside the top 15, but Monty and Justice continue to fight. Monty finally gets that move done. The driver of that Masters 925 car putting on a masterful drive as it stands right now, but here we go. We're starting to squabble up at the front. That's Josh Soto jumping his way up into second. Got that 2-for-1 deal heading down into the hairpin. Gets it done on Kramer, then gets it done on Panero. He now has to jump in front of Samoas, and the race lead is his.
Yep, absolutely. It's a good battle up there still as we're back here with Gradwell and Monty, Kevin Adrian in the front of this group right here. So you see there's about 7 or so cars in this little battle, as well as Monty is trying to carve his way through this group to get to the front. He wants to go up there and try and make the move to try and get up to Nunez in 14th, and he's going to take that to the inside through that corner and get that done. So well done by York. And now he's going to set his sights on Nunez up in 14th.
So locking his gun sights on that car to see if he'll be able to gain another spot. It's a bit of a leap that Monty has to make, but hey, I've seen stranger things. I'm not talking about the show on Netflix. We jump back to the 8-car train, chugging along at the front. Samoa still leads over Soto, over Panero, over Kramer, over Nazelli, over Dirk Braun, your current leader in Spec 2, with Antonio Reese and Jason Green rounding out this pack as it stands at the present moment. 14 laps in. Kevin Adrian's had a moment. He's dropping down like a stone thrown into a pond. What happened to this racer? He ended his way off through turn number 14 right there. May have been a contact potentially down to the braking zone. Let's see. Looking good through there, maybe carrying a bit too much momentum. It's that curb, and that curb is a war zone. Bang, huge hit into the wall.
Yeah, I didn't mention that earlier, but yes, that is one of those curbs that will absolutely destroy your race and your front end of your car, and that's exactly what happened to Adrian. So very, very tough luck. He'll come in. He's at a point now, I think he can come in and take his fast repair and finish up the race without stopping again. So that might be an unintentional undercut that Adrian's going to get to do here, as Dan Wood is also in the pits now.
I will say, though, and this is honest, if this was a real-life race and he tried to go bat that strategy, he probably wouldn't even remember what strategy he was on, because that was a hard hit, and he'd probably leave this race concussed. Daniel Wood also making that call to come down pit lane as well. Brad Cathcart in the pits also. Side-by-side at the front, Josh Soto looking down the inside into turn number 7. Not going to go for it. Thought Nazelli was potentially going to leap as well. You know, I say this a lot in reference to the Formula V Weekend Warriors broadcast here in Slow Motion Broadcasting that you can catch every single single Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on SMB. But I will raise this in reference to the Spec Racer Ford race at Sebring today. We see stages with a draft-heavy race. At the first stage, it's rather calm. You see some incidents every now and then, but that's fine. The battle up at the front, though, occasionally ends in tears. They come to blows, and then you enter stage 2 where the drivers are like, you know what? We've had our battling, we've had our fun in the early stages. We may want to take it easy before any more of us get struck by a falling anvil. Then there's another moment that takes place in the later stages, and that sets you off into stage 3, where you have got a bare-knuckle fist fight of racers trying to scrap and battle and claw for every single position that they can. I still think that we're firmly in stage 1 at the moment, even though we have 16 minutes on the board. Everybody at the front has been keeping it rather clean. They have started to throw more and more haymakers at each other, though, Charles. So I wouldn't necessarily rule out some chicanery breaking out.
Yeah, not at all. As I think what we'll see is we're kind of in that, I think, stage 2 point now, where we're just kind of riding around. They're trying to keep the pack pretty close. I think we're just now entering that. We're going to get to the point to where these cars are going to come in for their pit stops. We might see some strategy get played out here where you might have a couple cars. That's really wide by Samoa's there. You know, watch out. Soto might have a good run down the front stretch. He might try and make this a pass as he's going to be right up on him. He's going to do a little bump drafting. Yep, absolutely. Indeed, a little bump drafting down the front straight. He's just very happy to stay in P2. That was obvious. That was a signal to Samoa's that I'm not going to pass you just yet. I'm going to stay behind you, and I'm going to save fuel. So once we get through the pit stop cycle, I think that's when the gloves start coming off and we start seeing more battling. But they want to get this train out as far as we're going to get a replay here, and this is Sean McStay moving down to the inside of Adam Bradshaw, and McStay. Ooh, that wall kind of scared him a little bit. He jumped out, I think, as that wall changed kind of his angle. And he should have stayed behind Adam Bradshaw there for a little bit longer, maybe got a run down the front straight.
God damn it. Felix Samoas is your race leader at the moment. Josh Soto about a 10th and a half behind, closing as they head their way down into turn number 10. Not going to be a move there just yet. Kane Lasky, though, still on the charge. Picked up a penalty right at the start of this race, but he's still fighting back. Currently slotted in P19. Now, granted, he still has to make that run through the pit lane for fuel, but that is still a rather nice drive and a nice recovery for the driver of the 09 car. I will say Trent Kramer, he started to get a little bit squirrely lap after lap as some run wide heading through turn number 1 not terribly long ago. Not sure what that sign is that just says turn on the inside that we phased through with our wonderful high-tech cameras here on slow motion broadcasting. But right now, I think I'm starting to see that number 20 car of Trent Kramer turn from a normal Spec Racer Ford into one that has the wheels bolted on sideways. He's put on a very good race as it stands right now, but I think I'm starting to see the pace begin to bleed away from that number 20 car.
Yeah, I think you're right. And, you know, Kramer is probably, you know, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, probably the least experienced of all the racers that we got out here in this main group, maybe with the exception of Dirk Braun. So obviously Trenton, we've seen him not just with the Weekend Warriors, but in the Esports series. It's a fantastic racer. But you know, you've got some guys out there that are really, really, really good. You know, thinking about Samoas and Naselli and Pinero. Just Pinero in this car is an absolute wizard. So Kramer's done a fantastic job of managing to hang on to that top 5 position, and you never know. We get to the pit stop, anything can happen. We've seen it every week almost, where we've had incidents, you know, involving cars trying to work their way into the pits, and we haven't talked about it much, but pit entry is a little bit tricky here, as we're hearing there's a crash, and this is Leonard Geese, and this is Indianapolis, and then Le Mans. No, it's coming in. Sorry, this is coming into Indy and Le Mans, and very much that same curb and same result into the inside wall. Not a really difficult hit. He should be able to get that back out. Probably have a little bit of damage on front that'll slow him as far as his top speed, but otherwise should get back out there and continue to try and make his way forward if at all possible.
I wonder if he used up his fast repair though in the first moment. If that was the case, he may have to spend a pretty lengthy time down pit lane as Leonard Geese now making that call to pit. Unfortunate. The curbs heading off through there. I say this
Yeah.
as someone who has been bit by that bullet myself. I remember running a Radical SR10 race back when the officials were being broadcasted on a another network than what they are right now over on the iRacing channel. I remember running in that race as the pseudo in-race reporter, and
Mhm.
I got sent off. I was actually side by side with a racer heading off through that section. The driver I was side by side with hit that curb, bounced back onto the track, and slid and hip checked me off. So I can attest to the fact that the curbs heading off through there are probably some of the most evil in the sim. If anyone has ever driven the IR18 IndyCar, heading off through that section of the track. Those cars
Yeah.
do not have power steering, and the force feedback is about as strong as you could possibly get in the sim. You will attest to the wrist pain that you can feel heading off through those curbs through there. The 3D curbs added into Sebring. This was one of the first tracks that had those 3D curbs, and it is you can definitely tell that in certain parts, especially heading off through there. Those I guess I would probably call them shark tooth curbs because you can really get bit heading off through that part of the track. Lucky Mosbeck has made the call to come down pit lane in the 110 car. He's going to drop down outside the top 10 as a result of that strategic decision. And I will say, talking about another battle that may flare up, it's a battle now with the top 6, as the two right behind of Dirk Braun and Jason Green have lost touch, with about a second of a gap now formed between Antonio Reese, currently in P6, and Dirk Braun in P7.
Yeah, and Dirk is trying to make that back. It was about a second and a half as they came down the back straights the last time. So he is trying to make that gap up, but obviously it's going to be very difficult. He needs these cars in front to maybe do a little battling to slow them down through the corners and allow them to get up some of that time. And just to add on to your shark tooth curbs there coming through that section, I think that will kill your car. I think killing your race is that little slowdown, that nasty little slowdown on the inside of Le Mans. If you cut that corner too much, it's about a 7 to 8 tenths of a second slowdown, and you're on one of the fastest parts of the track, and it absolutely it's a time killer. It will absolutely ruin anything that you had going to that point. You're going to end up losing a couple of seconds to the other cars around you, and it's very difficult to make that time up.
Yeah, it can be absolutely brutal in the event of something like that going on. Now past the halfway mark, 23 laps on the board, and not 23 laps, 23 minutes and just 10 laps on the board right now. It is still Felix Simoes in the race lead. Josh Soto slotted in second. Marco Panero rounding out the top 3 as it stands presently, but we do have those pit stops to worry about here and the not too far off future, and that will certainly throw a massive wrench in the works to try and figure out who is going to come out victorious here at Sebring today. Touching again on the track conditions, that have certainly been a big storyline here in this race. The track is somewhat cooling off at only 117 degrees Fahrenheit, down from the 123 that we had a little bit earlier on here in this race. That works out to about 47 degrees Celsius. And again, for Neil deGrasse Tyson, if you are tuning into the show, that's 320 Kelvin. As here we go, the train of drivers making that call to come down pit lane.
Yeah, from Simoes, Soto, Naselli, and Reese all come down. Panero, Kramer, Braun, and Green stay out. So we got two-car packs that are still running around the track up at the front of the field. So Panero is going to have to see if he can do a couple of hot laps here to avoid getting caught up by that undercut, as we've got a crash on the track somewhere, is what I heard. Adam Bradshaw looked like he had a I see a meatball up for Bradshaw. So incident involving Adam Bradshaw somewhere on the track, and we're going to get the replay here. This is a replay of them. Here we go. This is Adam Bradshaw in that green, orange, and white car. He's coming around, and we're going to see these same curbs again. This is what's going to get him. Oh, it just too much speed and overcooked it through the corner. Stayed off the curbs, but still had too much steering input and lost the rear.
It was the aura of evil from those curbs that
Yeah,
really messed him up. Kurt Nunez has picked up a black flag as a result of his call to come down pit lane. As we're going to take a look in a moment, that may have went down involving it's his Michele Viglini, who's not had the best race in the world in the 319. At a moment heading off through here a little bit earlier on. Let's see if it's another moment down into this section. Survey says that's the
yep.
curb and that's the wall. Oh, that was the hardest hit we've seen thus far.
Yeah, that was tough, and yeah, it's been a rough day for Bellini, but it looks like that curb is winning today's event. It's every time somebody's went across there, somebody it's managed to trip them up. So it's very very difficult, and you're seeing it today.
Have you or a loved one been exposed to the curb on the outside of turn number 15 here at Sebring? You may be entitled to substantial compensation. Right now, we've got Marco Panero and Trent Kramer running in P1 and P2. Let's see if they'll make that call to come down pit lane here in the not too far off future. A Swaparoo potentially going to go on with Jason Green and Dirk Braun. That's usually a bit of an indicator that they will be making that call to come out into the pits in the not too far off future. I think it will be a pit call to pit from Panero. Here we go. And
Kramer
Jason Green and Dirk Braun going to follow and suit. Trent Kramer making a late call. I thought he was going to stay out for one more lap. I think he saw Panero come down pit lane and said, you know what? I'm not going to be left out there on the racetrack. Usually in the world of racing, you want to have some clean air. Here in the Spec Racer Ford says usually, I wouldn't say a death sentence, but it's pretty close to it.
Yeah, you definitely want a draft partner when you're pitting. It's almost like you're running a NASCAR race on a super speedway, as we see. Josh Justice is going to inherit the lead here out there by himself, running alone, taking over P1 until he comes in for his pit stop, but has had a good race, he's currently up 22 positions. Obviously, he's going to lose a few of those after he comes into the pits, but is having a really good run, was solidly up during the course of that race so far. Oh, here we go, Samoas and Kramer.
And here we go. It's a drag race heading down into turn number 3. Felix Samoa's going to hold on to that inside line through the braking zone, in through the turn, and Kramer going to recognize that and back out of it. Still P2 at the moment. Very good strategy call, it must be said, from himself and Panero. They exit out nose to tail. Currently in P3 and P4, it'll shake out to be net P2 and P3 in this race, so not a lot of complaints there. Kurt Nunez has come down pit lane once again to serve that black flag. He's joined there by the likes of Flavio Angelo, Scott Russell, Paul Jackson, Sean McStay, and Ian Gibson all making that call to come down pit lane as it stands presently. 27 coming up to 28 minutes already into this 40-minute long race. Samoas is still your net leader of the race. Justice has to come down pit lane here soon. Flavio Angelo, I'm trying to look to see where he is right now. He's down at 21st. Another driver putting on a very hard charge here. I talked about it right before we grabbed the green, the possibility of the hard charger being up multiple spots. Talk about this. Andre Favini slot in P16 right now. He has gained 19 spots since the drop of the green flag. He has made that call to come down pit lane as well, so that's P16 on merit.
Yeah, and he's going to pick up another one because last he's going to have to come back in and pit again. As he pitted, he's already pitted twice. So, okay. So Lasky up to P14, so having a great recovery. They've dropped off Green and Braun out of this group, so now you've got a 6-car draft up front. And I'm been looking. We always talk about Jason Green being very good at fuel save and fuel strategy as it goes. Always really good on his number. And he was about a second and a half slower than everybody else in front of him. So that makes me wonder about the timing of when we're going to get the white/checkered flag. We may have several cars up front have to lift to save fuel, or Green just simply made a mistake and took an extra lap's worth. So it's going to be interesting to watch that as we get down to the closing laps of this race as Justice comes in from the lead.
Yeah, Josh Justice making that call to come into the pits. I'll give it back to Felix Samoas. Maritza Nazelli last time by, setting a 2:22.264. That's a pretty good lap time from Nazelli, first driver to really break into that bracket of lap time. Josh Justice still down pit lane. Here comes a move from Soto and Nazelli. That's going to be some close and tight stuff. Down into 3. They're going to remain single file with Nazelli remaining in 4th and Soto completing your top 5 as it stands right now at the front. Samoas and Kramer still running close. Monty, you usurping that time that we saw a couple of moments ago from Nazelli, breaking into the 221s with a 229.9. Well done there from Monty. Did I say a 229? A 221.9. Second tries a charm, but still a very good lap time from the driver of the 925, currently slotted in lucky number P13. Got the draft from Lasky right in front, and that's Phil Berry right behind the Spec 2 racer, currently running P4 of the racers in that class. Dirk Braun still holds on to the lead in that category. However, if anything were to happen to him, Josh Wilkie would be the one to inherit that. Looking like the streak that we have at the present moment of 6 different winners in 6 races in the Spec 2 category set to end if Dirk Braun can remain in that spot. It would have to be a falling anvil coming down on both Braun and Wilkie's heads to give the Spec 2 win on series debut, nonetheless, to Alexander Gorson in the 621 car. So let's see if any such shenanigans will take place, but as it stands right now, Braun looking to grab the second win.
Yeah, he's having a good run. Obviously, just at the tail end, a couple 5 seconds or so behind that main pack up front, and he's just behind Jason Green. So he'll work to see if he can catch Green up. If they can work together. Ooh, as we see Samoa's slideways coming out of Le Mans.
Yeah, these racers heading off through there, they are really struggling for grip. You can see Jason Green also having a rather similar moment as well, just there in the back of shot. Soto and Nazelli side by side. The battling really starting to flare up, and look at Pinero having to take that defensive approach on that inside line. Getting into crunch time here in this race. About 8.5 minutes left to go on the clock. Probably, I would say, about 3 or 4 laps left to go here. So we're starting to get antsy. These racers are starting to get antsy for sure, and that's why they're going for some moves that they probably wouldn't have gone for in the earlier stages. Soto trying to make it work on Pinero around the outside to turn number 1. Pinero nearly coming to blows with Kramer as they lick the stamp and set it off in through the first turn. Samoa still holds on to it. Soto, though, really putting on a show. He now looks for the move down the inside into the turn. Look at the race there, nearly running into the back of Nazelli. That's a move from Soto for third. That was nearly a disaster with P5 and P6 of Nazelli and Reese.
Yeah, they got to be very careful, or they're going to end up battling through a corner, and they're going to let Samoas and Kramer kind of check out from the group. So they're going to be very careful about making these passes. We are getting down to the end, but we've still got 2 or 3, or it should be, I should say, about 7 more minutes of racing left. So get a replay here of Adam Bradshaw. This is going in the tower.
Picked up a black flag as well.
Oh, so is it going to be incident limit? So that's probably going to be a drive-through, and he just said, "You know what? I don't even want to. I'm just gonna reset back to the pits."
He's like, you know what? I'm good. I don't have to worry about the drive-through. No point in serving the drive-through. May as well just pack it up and look ahead to next week's race on the calendar at Oran Park. Going to be going back down under for that race in just 1 week's time here on SMB. Matt Thompson battling hard with Gorson. That's a battle for P4 at the moment in that Spec 2 category. Gorson, I believe, just came into the pits not terribly long ago. I'm going to double check this. Yeah, just came into the pits on the last lap. So that's part of the reason why he has dropped down from what was P3 of the Spec 2 racers, now down in P16 as it stands currently. Swaparoo with Bradwell and Thompson as well, a little bit farther in the back by the front. Felix Samoas and Trent Kramer still running strong. Soto, Pinero, Nazelli, and Reese round out this pack. It's a 5-second gap between themselves and Jason Green, who's still involved in his own little tussle with himself and Dirk Braun. That's a battle for P7 on the road. And again, a reminder to those tuning into the series for the first time, the overall positions are the ones that give the points, not the class positions. So a P7 for Dirk Braun will mean just as much to him as that P7 would to Jason Green. So we may end up seeing those two start to squabble up. Let's take a look at this moment for Alexander Gorson. A little bit glitched out on my end here, Charles. He is running down to P16. Though.
Yeah, he just caught the curb. He got a little loose there coming out of turn 3, and had to correct it and end up riding on that outside curb and looping the car around. So tough break coming out of turn 3 there for Gorson. So that's going to That's what's dropped him down to P16 in overall and P4 in class.
It's not a great moment there for sure for Alexander Gorson, a newcomer to the series. Nice to see some new blood coming into the Spec Racer Ford and the Weekend Warriors world altogether. If you want to get started here with the Weekend Warriors, join the Slow Motion Broadcasting Discord server on this YouTube channel, and we can get you started. 3 wide. That's a dive from Panero into the turn, and that's going to be team. Oh, no contact being made. Touching that right there was Soto and Kramer coming to blows. The two Americans, they touch. Soto going to call it a day. Kramer going to drop down to P5, and he's now going to fall into the clutches of Jason Green and Dirk Braun right behind. But Panero goes for the dive, and it ends in tears for the drivers right around him. May need to load up a replay. 3 wide racing as they head their way down into turn number 7. Really not a lot that Panero did to really cause that incident, but certainly spooked those drivers to cause it a couple of moments afterwards.
Yeah, it really did, and now there are 4 up at the front, and Kramer has fallen back to behind in P6 behind Jason Green, with Dirk Braun right there behind them, and Dirk is slowly closing that down. That's going to help. That's going to help Dirk kind of bridge the gap up to Green. He should be able to pull back up and make that a 3-car battle. But yeah, it just looked like to me that it was maybe might have been a little bit of Panero making the move and Soto trying to follow, and maybe clipped the rear of Trenton Kramer's car, causing him to spin. And I think that might have been why Soto said, that's not the way I want to make moves, and just said, I'm just going to reset it back to the pits.
Yeah, just decided to call it a day. An unfortunate moment for those two. They are going to have to be a little bit upset with how things go here at Sebring today. That was Felix Simoes running extremely wide as he headed his way out of turn number 17. Thought he was going to end up in the wall. Definitely a lot of undulation as you get close there. The track really starts to gain its pitch. It's like an old school track in the sense that instead of just having a lot of runoff, they would just increase the banking by the wall to make sure that you wouldn't hit it. I forget what oval track it was many moons ago that had a feature rather similar to that. I'll get the name of it to share on next week's broadcast, but that's basically what it is. Coming out of turn number 17, it feels like that asphalt and the concrete is piled up as you head your way out of there, so that may have been the only thing that saved Felix Simoes from slapping the wall and losing out in the race lead. This is still a battle of the Titans. Where have we seen this before here, Charles? It's a battle between Felix Simoes and Marco Panero for the win in a Spec Racer Ford race here in Season 3 of 2025, but they're not alone. Nazelli and Reese right there to pounce.
Yeah, it happens frequently with those two guys. They're seemingly usually up near the front. We've seen them have great races, and we've seen issues and where there's some really bad collisions. We've seen them double disqualify. We've seen about everything. So. Yeah, it's no surprise that they're up there, and Naselli and Reese, either one of those guys are capable of winning this race. So they got to be on their best behavior here, getting to the end, or they're going to get picked off by one of those cars behind.
And with the white flag coming in the air, this upcoming time by these racers have a lot of tension to deal with, both in their cockpits and just in the air, period. It's getting intense. They want to kick off the second half of the season as best as they can. And for Felix Simoes and Marco Panero locked in a very close championship battle, a race win like this over the other can really decide the swing of momentum. Panero, he's had the momentum on his side as of recent weeks, has 3 wins up to this point in the championship, including back-to-back wins at Jerez 2 weeks ago and Laguna Seca last time at Simoes. The last time he was able to visit Victory Lane was at the Lime Rock Park Ground all the way back there a couple of weeks ago on the 13th. But there we go, the move from Panero. Wasn't expecting something like that. It doesn't really work heading off through there, and Simoes is going to try and pounce back, heading their way onto the start-finish straightaway for the final time. The white flag in the air. One more lap of racing action here at Sebring at Simoes, leading over Panero. Nazelli thought he was going to try and pounce, but here comes a pounce from Panero into turn number 1. That's the spot to get the move done. Usually you don't see it into the last turn. You usually just see it in the first. But now look at the defensive line from Panero trying to block off that inside. Nazelli there to pounce on Samoa's. A lock up there. Contact being made. Samoa is going to hit Nazelli. He's going to go around, and that's going to take him out of it. Panero now has himself, Reese, and Nazelli to worry about, unless there's a big turn of events, though. Looking very good for Panero and looking horrendous for Felix Samoa. There's some damage on that car as well. Talk about the swing of momentum here, Charles. He wants to leave this race with a win, as Panero off the back of 2 straight, with the gap he has at the moment and the fact that Samoa is well farther back. Looks like at the very least Samoa is going to finish behind Panero, but it very much so looks like, unless he has a mistake, Panero may go for 3 straight.
Yeah, it's just got this last little section here is going to be critical. Reese has got to just chip away a little bit. He's got Naselli behind him. If they can stay within that, as we're seeing here, 0.7 of a second, if they can stay at that distance, when they get to the back straight, they're going to be able to get a huge draft off of Panero. This is going to tighten back up, and so that might see a move on the front straight for the victory here. So Panero's not out of the woods yet. You still got 2 very fast cars behind him.
We've still got a couple of corners left to go here in this race for Marco Panero to just ace these turns and win number 4 for him in the first 7 rounds of this season. Set to be his. You can see him taking that very aggressive approach with the curbs on the inside there. Not the smartest line, it must be said, heading off through turn number 15. He's risking it for sure. He picked up a slowdown heading off through there. Talk about a dramatic end to this race. Holy cow. But Panero leads heading down the Ullman straightaway for the last time here in this race. Reese is closing the gap, but it's just not enough. Jeff Fritcher, he's run into some difficulties. He's now out of it, slotted down in 32nd. A move from Nazelli on Reese, heading down into Sunset Bend right at the very end. Gonna be a swap-a-roo for the final 2 podium spots. Reese on track for a win in the Masters category. Nazelli, the reigning champion, gonna jump into P2. That'll be a photo finish right behind. Marco Panero wins, and it looks like Reese will hold on to P2. Got that back, heading down the start-finish straight away. Felix Samoas, though, going to end up in a heart-wrenching P4. This race had a lot of stuff riding on it when it comes to these drivers' psyche heading off into the final stretch of 5 races to bring this season to a close. It's going to look good for Panero, not looking so great for Samoas.
No, it was a really great battle. Obviously, the contact, with Samoa's just locking up, going into 3, kicked the car straight and into the side of Naselli. Fortunate for Naselli, he didn't lose the car and was able to keep going and at least put a challenge on Panero at the end. But great run by Panero. Dirk Braun, Reese obviously takes P2 in the Masters class. Dirk Braun finishing in 7th, taking Spec 2. Great run by Lasky to pick up to P8 at the end of that. And then our hard charger, Andrea Favini, up 23 positions.
Yeah, Lasky with a rather under-the-radar drive. Oh, there's a photo finish right at the end between Paul Jackson and Andrew Love. They give us a little jump scare there. Paul Jackson ends up getting it just barely. I think Andrew may have potentially run out of fuel there. Yeah, 5 seconds off the pace on that last lap. So Andrew Love got to pick up the Thompson Trophy at the end of this race. Kurt Nunez had to deal with a black flag late. He's going to finish this race in P28. Panero, though, going to grab his 6th win, and not the 6th win this season, the 4th win this season in 7 races. Brilliant stuff from Panero. Antonio Reese going to continue on his form in Masters. That is going to be yet another win for him. 2 weeks back-to-back for him to grab the checkered flags. And Dirk Braun going to end the streak at 6 for different winners in the Spec 2 category. It is P9 for him at Jerez to get his 1st win of the season. It's P7 here at Sebring to get his 2nd. So well done to Braun, as we're about to see Ian Gibson round his way around the final corner. The last car to take the checkered flag here in this race at Sebring, a race where we were expecting a draft fest. We certainly got it. I wonder how those final few corners would have gone had Samoa's not had that lockup down to turn 3.
Yeah, it would have been a great battle down to the start finish line for sure. Probably even tighter than it was, and we had you had 2 cars separated by less than 1/10 of a second at the end. So great racing all the way around by everybody involved. Obviously the contact, not what you want to do, but it happens sometimes. We're on board here with Mr. Jason Green and Jorg Monty. What are they going to end up doing? I think it's time to break the car. We'll see them checking up a little bit there. We get the little train going.
A little conga line.
Yeah,
Battery's
we
out of
do
gas.
indeed. Oh, there we go. Oh, sent him. Then Monty gets sent from behind by Favini, I believe. So yeah, it's it's what we do. Oh, that was coming in hot.
Yeah, that right there was Ian Gibson coming in for the kill. Now we've got a pusher situation right now. Jason Green going to be the lead car, the small little trainer with himself and Andre Favini. I think the Happy Hunter Grind is going to be turn number 7. I don't know what. I don't really want to know what sort of demons are going on. If right there in the camera shot, I can see some smoke the other way down into turn number 1. I think the drivers are just sleeping in their nice little cocoon there into turn number 7. But last time out at Laguna, holy crow, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're merging into each other. That's 7, 8, 9 car, 10. That 11 up in the air. Oh, and he landed. That was Kevin Adrian with a very odd looking. Okay, I don't even know what to describe. Can we show this on YouTube nowadays? I'm not really too. We've got like 5 cars merged within each other against just the mass of tire barriers. I'm not really sure what to say, so I'm going to load up the results here and let you know that at the end of this. I'm sorry, just the sight there. I think that's Jason Grinder stuck in the fence in the Yamaha car. That car looks so unbelievably sad. It looked like an old chip. Just parked there in the fence in the background. Well, I think we should get those results loaded up before I start to see any more goofiness with these Spec Racer boards that will cause me to bust a gut laughing. We'll let you know that at the end of this race, Marco Panero going to grab his 4th win of the season. The Italian finishes in front of Antonio Reese in P number 2. Martinelli, the German, going to round out your podium in 3rd. It'll be Felix Samoa's class in 4th, Jason Green in 5th, Trent Kramer in 6th. Dirk Bruns wins it in the Spec 2 category, finishing this race in P number 7. Kane Lasky will finish this race in 8th with Josh Wilkie in 9th, and Phil Berry rounding out your top 10.
Yeah, Jorg Monty finishing in 11th, P2 in the Masters. Andrea Favini finishing in 12th, Josh Justice 13th. Tom Gradwell rounds out your Masters podium in 14th. Matt Thompson finishes in 15th. Alexander Gorson on his debut, finishing in 16th. Good run. Dan Woods finishes in 17th. We've got Flavio Andolo finishing in 18th. Scott Russell 19th. Kevin Adrian rounds out your top 20. Peterson Rocha finishing in 21st. Brad Cathcart in 22nd. Paul Jackson 23rd. Andrew Love in P24. 25th is Jeff Jacobson. 26th is Joaquin Osbeck. Sean McStay finishes again 27th. Kurt Nunez finishes in 28th. Jason Grider in 29th. Jeff Frischer in 30th. Ian Gibson finishing in 31st. Leonard Geese in 32nd. Josh Soto finishing in 33rd. Adam Bradshaw 34th. Michele Bellini finishing in 35th. And Hayden Bramley and Arturo Librero did not take the start, and those will be the final 2 cars on our 37-car race results.
So those are your results here at the end of this race at Sebring. A dramatic one, to be sure, an exciting one as well. And I think we're going to get the interview festivities kicked off here in just a couple of moments' time. Marco Panero not going to join us. I'm not really sure if he's ever joined the broadcast booth for an interview. Charles, you...
He is not to my knowledge, and I've been doing it for a while.
Yeah, I was about to say, in the entire time that I've been doing this, he's never joined, and you predated me by a couple of seasons for these shows. So I think we'll get things up, rolling, and ready to rock by having a chat with one of our newest colleagues here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, and the sponsor of today's broadcast, put on a very valiant charge after some difficulties in the early stages, walk away from this track with a P8 result. Kane Lasky joining us here in the broadcast booth. Kane, welcome in. P8 at the end of it. A nice charge back from the back of the pack after that penalty a little bit earlier on. Happy to talk us through this race at Sebring.
Hey, what's up, guys? How are you? How was the race from the broadcast?
It was rather hectic, I gotta say. I think my vocal cords are starting to give out because there were many times I had to mute my mic to cough, but it was pretty good from our perspective. How was it from yours?
Yeah, pretty good. I did one of those things like you don't do very often, or maybe just once. Like, I thought I was on pole for some reason, so I took off at the start and got a black flag, and immediately realized, like, dude, you idiot! Like, Felix took pole right at the end. So probably just excited because I knew that this race was going to be a barn burner, because it's really hard to get away, but it's also really hard to win, and there's several places that you can make your move, and there's lots of strategy to that. And then trying to get crazy and make your move, it's pretty easy to make a mistake because the track really doesn't have that much grip. I call it like seagull shit grip. A lot of these Florida tracks, they're just they have some grip, but when the grip lets go, there's no grip. So yeah, I basically blew that at the start and just had to charge back and had a pretty good race. I ran a 0x race and didn't have any major issues and ran pretty fast, and yeah, learned a lesson that hopefully I won't make next week.
Yeah, keeping our fingers crossed, and we apologize for the language. A very good euphemism, I gotta say, though. I would repeat it, but I don't think I can. But looking at the entirety of this race here at Sebring and you sponsoring it, I want to ask what it means to you to be a member of the Weekend Warriors.
I mean, I just love it because, honestly, I mean, you guys know in the booth, but I raced for 18 years, and for a good decade of that, I spent 25 to 30 weekends a year, more than half the year at the racetrack, and I love being at the track, and I love racing, not necessarily battling, but playing mental chess and trying to figure out, because if you're really racing good, you're way ahead of everybody. It's very fun and it's very expensive, and so I can get this very high level thing without spending nearly the money or the risk, and it's really amazing, and it's one of the things that I really love. Sim racing could be fun, but to race against 5 or 6 guys that practice and show up and they really want to win, but they also don't want to put you into the dirt is so amazing. And I love the Weekend Warriors, and just in general, I love what iRacing has put together. It takes a lot of time to get your virtual car set up right to where it feels good and you feel very natural, and that's kind of an ongoing process, and I would say that's the negative thing. But the positive side is when you do that, my car understeers, oversteers, corrects, it does everything like I would expect a big heavy go-kart to do, and it's absolutely thrilling to ride on the limit for 40 minutes straight. And I knew that if I didn't make a mistake today, that it was going to come down to a 10th, and there was going to be more than one person there, and it's amazing. It's really hard to describe that feeling. I would say orgasm is one of those type of things that you can't really put it into words because it doesn't translate. And yeah, with the setup that I have, with the motion and a powerful wheel and virtual reality and being strapped in with my belts, it's totally amazing.
Yeah, it's still nice to be a part of the other Weekend Warriors, and I gotta say, from my perspective as a commentator, it's an absolute blast week in and week out. Kane, we'll let you give any thanks or shout outs before we let you go and get some practice in for Oran Park next week.
Yeah, thanks, Mauricio. I don't know if he watches the broadcast, but he gave me a little tow at the end that put me on the front row, even though I probably would have been on the second row. But that's why I took off at the start. You really want to be safe here. It's pretty slippery on cold tires. And so thanks for the tow, because not that often that people do that. It shows how confident he is. And thanks all the guys that show up to race. Thanks for Stevie, Jason, and all the people that put on this thing behind the scenes. Thanks for you guys in the booth, basically keeping it exciting for us. And thanks for all the other competitors that come out and drive respectful like real life, and make this so much a fun community to be a part of. And look forward to seeing you guys next week. Where are we at, Ron?
We are at Oran Park on the Moto layout next time out. So it's basically the normal Oran Park configuration, just with a very lazy chicane put into it. I'm not really sure what to make of that track, but hey, I won't have to drive there. I'll just have to talk about it. So, Kane, we'll let you get some practice in for that race at Oran next time out.
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend. See you again.
You as well. And that right there was Kane Lasky, our P8 finisher at the end of this race and the sponsor of today's broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. The comment that he made talking about the grip of this track, that's probably going to stick with me for a long time. But Charles, who do you want to have a chat with?
Let's bring in P2 in the race, Antonio Reese. We'll have a chat with him, our Masters class winner as well. and we'll have a quick chat. Antonio, welcome back to the booth again.
Hello, guys.
And,
Again.
So really pretty much standard for Sebring. Lots of drafting. Nice long train at the front of the field that just slowly withered down, and then you had a nice little battle with Naselli there on the last lap.
Yeah, it was. I think Naselli have not enough fuel on the few last meters, and that's why I could pass him. I think if he have enough fuel, probably I could not get the second place. But that's my idea. I don't know if it's true or not, because from the sound of the car, I could listen. It sounds to me something like that, but I'm not sure. I cannot swear.
Well, we were kind of questioning that. There's a lot of drivers that, we normally look at Jason Green as our kind of our standard bearer up in the front for getting his fuel number right. And there were a lot of drivers that were quite like a second and a half quicker on their stop. So I was kind of curious about it, but everybody made it as far as we could tell, except for maybe a couple toward the back. But you had a really good run again, as usual, and kind of extending your lead out, because Fritcher did not have the greatest race in the world today.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it was a good one. I was really happy for the happy hand. But I was struggling. I was thinking always, about what can happen. Something wrong can happen, and then I was trying to keep on the same group to avoid the guys behind catching, and because they are fast, so I just benefit from the draft of the faster guys, and then try to just play safe, not to ruin or destroy anyone's race. But was a very, very funny, interesting today race on the spec. I love these airfield tracks. This cement. It's some good karma.
Yeah. So switching things up again next week at Oran Park. Very small, narrow, tight track. So what are your thoughts about that?
I love Oran Park. It's one of my favorite tracks because it's so technical and it's so difficult. And so but it's not. It doesn't mean I going to go to have a good race. It's always a question. It's always a question mark. Even I like the track. Yeah, Charles, that's the way.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Antonio, we'll let you give any thanks or shout outs, and we'll let you go.
Yeah, thank you for you guys for the broadcast. I don't know the sponsor today as well.
Kane Lasky.
Oh, Kane. Okay, thank you, Kane. And also for Steve Ray, of course, and all the guys that help Steve to organize everything. And for the drivers, for the great community of Weekend Warriors, and for the YouTube viewers, our viewers, and all my family as well.
Antonio, congratulations. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. See you next week, Charles. Take care.
All right.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
And that right there was our Masters winner and P2 finisher at the end of this race, Antonio Reese, joining us here in the broadcast booth. We also have our Spec 2 winner at the end of it all, Dirk Braun, joining us now in the broadcast booth. Dirk, welcome in. Congratulations. You are now the first multi-time winner in the Spec 2 category here this season. So how does it feel to get win number 2 here at Sebring?
Pretty good. Let's see if I can keep it up.
It's been a very good season for you up to this point, and a rather up and down field. Got that win at Jerez a couple of weeks ago. Get it done here at Sebring. When it comes to qualifying, though, 4 pole positions, you've just been seemingly to be in click with that Spec Racer Ford really ever since the start of this season.
Well, it was a little rough at the beginning of the season for me, just coming in. I didn't want to kill anybody or wreck anybody out, so I was just, trying to keep my distance a little bit. But I tell you, the people that I'm racing with, those guys have helped me out a lot, whether it's with setups or how to take the corners and stuff like that. So I got to hand it off to those guys. So JG2, he's been running with me a lot. So yeah, that's who I got to give the thanks to.
And a very nice community that we've got here in the Weekend Warriors. I've been very happy to have been the commentator for these broadcasts now for I'm up to nearly 2 years in a couple of months. Holy cow, time flies when you're having fun. But Dirk, I want to ask you about your thoughts heading off to next week's race at Oran Park on the moto layout. That's going to be a rather fun race. So what are your thoughts heading there?
Well, considering I have never raced on that track, it's going to be interesting. So I'll have to purchase that track, and if I don't have it already, and do some practice laps on that tonight. So well, it is free. Okay, yeah, so that'd be perfect. But I've never ran on that track, so it's going to be interesting this next week coming up.
And interestingly enough, when they tried to preserve North Wilkesboro Speedway here in the sim, they were basically doing what they did with Oran. They decided to laser scan that track right before they knocked it down in real life and preserve as many layouts as they could. Oran's fun one, part of the base content, so hopefully we'll see you out there on the racetrack in 1 week's time, Dirk. Well, I'll let you give that a thanks or shout out before we let you go and celebrate win number 2 for you here in Spec 2 this season.
I appreciate it. Well, I just want to thank you guys. You guys are top notch. You know, watch you guys every weekend after the races, and then Stevie and everybody at on the Weekend Warriors. Appreciate those guys. You know, send me an invite and stuff. So, thanks.
And thank you as well for joining us here on the broadcast booth, man. Well done on the win, and looking forward to seeing you out there at Oran Park in 1 week's time.
Thanks a lot, guys.
And that right there was Dirk Braun, your Spec 2 winner at the end of this race. Charles, a race that we were expecting drama, and it certainly came with.
Yeah, absolutely. It's we got exactly what we were expecting. Really, really heavy draft race. Some great battles through the field, and then a nice little battle at the end there for the overall win. So yeah, it was great. Fantastic drama by everybody involved today.
Yeah, and looking forward to next week's race at Oran Park. That is going to be some fun. And it's not the end of the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, because throughout the rest of this season here in Season 3 of 2025, we have got all the actions to look forward to, of course, here in the Weekend Warriors Sim Racers group as well. They have got their races on Tuesday and Wednesday nights. The F4's going to be running at Portland in just a couple of days' time, while the F3's going to make their appearance at the Nürburgring Grand Prix track. Formula V action going to be here on Slow Motion Broadcasting on Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time at the Saxon Ring. Of course, the Spec Racer Ford is going to be running at Oran Park next week, along with VIR being the host of the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors race. And Ron's Race Nights will bring you action from the Formula C Fix Series at the Nordschleife this upcoming week as well. And of course, we're going to talk about some of the stuff coming up a little bit farther down the road. The Extreme Motorsports IndyCar Championship Series looking for signups for their Season 3. That's going to be going on. Signups are now active, and if you'd like to learn more, happy to send off some messages here in the Slow Motion Broadcasting Discord server. Along with that, USRA going to have their race this upcoming Saturday, and hopefully we'll be able to see all of you there on the broadcast for that. But as for this broadcast here for week number 7 of the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors here at Sebring, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, Charles Boshell joining me in the commentary booth, and Guido Marzucchi doing a wonderful job working on the cameras and the graphics in the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for tuning into this broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.